Hey, what's up, my friends? John Hiley here with the Tactical Dent YouTube channel and the Tactical Dent Tech Facebook group, bringing you guys today the training experience for my friend Tree Tran. Yes, his name is Tree, very unique guy, Vietnamese guy, really cool. This guy can sing Frank Sinatra better than Frank Sinatra. It's unbelievable. So you're not going to see any of that or hear any of that in this particular video. In fact, I turned the volume down on this one because I really want you guys to get what the training experience looks like in the beginning. Now, granted, I didn't get every piece of footage. You know, for example, right now, this is day one, and this is the first phase of training where Tree is learning how to use his knockdown. We also learn how to do pushes. So Tree is either pushing or doing knockdown work. And right now he's really just trying to find his ability to put that knockdown right on top of that high spot and knock it right back to where it came from, making it flat, making it even. And he is using the VIP sharper tip right now. This is an aluminum panel. If any of you guys who are veteran dent technicians that might be watching this, y'all know the steel VIP tips are incredible for aluminum. They just drive that metal down. And here's the thing. So when Tree came to me, he had never worked on aluminum. And in fact, he told me that this was kind of the boogeyman. He was out reading the forums, doing research, and was... from his research, he's oh no, aluminum. Well, that's where we start. So most hoods are aluminum nowadays. And that is where I love to start individuals on aluminum. Now, the thing is, when Tree got done doing the work on this aluminum, we moved around the car. So now we're going directly into the doors. And we're doing the same exercises. So all of my basic training exercises, learning how to find the tip of your tool, and also learning how to knock down the pushes that you make on the panel. I'm going to have him doing that immediately all the way around the vehicle. I mean, this is before lunch. We're on the hood and we're right over into the doors because I want him to feel the difference. One of the big mistakes that the big training mill companies make is they essentially keep that individual on the hood for way too long. And the truth of the matter is, most of the dents that when you fix outside of your training are going to be typically on side panels. Now that's unless you're training specifically for hail damage. But it's for the door ding folks that are doing door ding repair, you are going to be doing a ton of side panel damage. So I like to, the very first day, get him moving around that vehicle. So now we went from the door, back here into the rear quarter panel. And it's the same exercise. And the reason why you see much more knockdown work currently than pushing, well, first off, this is just what I recorded. But second, the knockdown work, in my opinion, is much more important. I mean, everything's important, but the knockdown work, to master the knockdown work, any veteran technician knows that we are always finishing our work with the knockdown. And so it's very rarely that you finish with a tiny little push, especially if you're doing side panel damage. Now, if you're doing hail, that's a different story. But again, doing this side panel damage, we're doing a lot of work with the knockdown hammer. Not only that, we're also using blending hammers, things like that. And I like right at the beginning, I want these basic fundamentals, and I want him working all around as many panels as possible. And so now we're going back into the hood. And we literally went from, finding the tip of the tools to going into a pretty decent crease. In fact, the crease is deep enough where we went ahead and got the James Lee Limident Mini Light so he could see way down into the bottom of that crease. And so these pushes that he's using right now with the tactical handle are specific to, that crease with that light really up close. So now we ended up going from there to moving to a crease on a roof. So I like moving around like that because I want Tree to understand not only what the crease feels like and looks like and responds on an aluminum hood, I want to come over to the next best flat panel to train on, and that is the roof. And so you can see Tree is making some knockdown work. In fact, I believe right now he's just getting a warm up on the roof, and we'll be moving to some real nice creases. We'll be moving into some very sharp dings. And you can see here he's just pushing away on that roof. You know, one of the things that we did, he also was able to, learn how to drop the headliner. Because Tree is an example of an individual who is just getting into it, right? And so he needs to learn as much as possible. Now, he's very mechanical, so he was able to drop the headliner with me relatively easy. But now we went from the headliner, we went from the roof, and we're going into, yes, my friends, a blending session with the blending hammer. And now I'm going to go ahead and capture what we're doing here. At the end of the day, I always like to end it with something fun. So I actually, for the last hour of the day, I'm showing Tree how to use cold glue. And cold glue is so fun. In fact, we ended up making a reel. Maybe I'll show it in this video. I can't remember if I added it or not. But cold glue is so fun. So now we put another dent in there. And you can see the first shot, it pulled it nearly flush. And so we got another dent in there, and then Tree's going to go ahead and lay that bull kick slide hammer right into it. And one of the things that I showed him is that he can position it, but then he can move at that point, right? So he was able to keep his head way far away from the dent as he dropped it in. But then once it's dropped, you can square up on it, kind of like a glue pulling tab. So you can move your position for that, optimal snap that you're looking for. So here he is again. First pulled a little to the left, so we dropped it a little further to the right. And the way, see that nice high spot that it pulled? Very nice high spot. And so here we go, doing a little bit of knockdown work on that high spot. And so this is Tree's first day, and he is doing knockdown work on a rail. Now, he knows to be incredibly careful while doing this. So I try to explain all the principles. You got panels that have a lot of bounce. You got aluminum that you got to hit it really hard. It's got a lot more, it's going to have a lot more flex to it, a lot more bounce. Technically, it's just because it work hardens much faster than steel. And then you got steel like panels that maybe the middle of the roof is really bouncy as well. So you're going to have to hit that harder because you're compensating the flex on the panel. Now, when it comes to a rail, on the other hand, there is hardly any flex at all. So you've got to be very careful, because if you just do one little mishit, you're going to leave a tiny little dent in the rail. So we go very, very slow. In fact, although I'm shooting with the camera here, I'm looking over his shoulder, and I found the camera was a really great way to see everything that he sees, because I can zoom up on it. And so now we went from the knockdown into the blending hammer. And so Tree has been watching me blend. I was teaching him, doing some live demonstrations, and you see him kind of working around it, because I do a lot of my blending work further from, the part that needs knocked down. I'm blending that whole area. I'm actually tapping it, sending vibrations through, moving that metal. So he's trying to implement that, and he's doing very good. There was no miss shots here with this. As you can see, came out really good. And I helped him out on some of this. This is full disclosure. I'm not trying to say that, he's the perfect dent technician on day one, but I can tell you that the fundamentals that he brought to the table on that day, or that he learned on that day, they're going to serve him for the rest of his time in paintless dent removal. And so that was the reel that I was talking about. So you already seen the after on that. But here you go. I'm kind of speeding it up. And you're just seeing exactly, what it is he's learning from different angles. And then you can kind of see the after video there. I think I actually played that twice. No big deal. I just really want you guys to pay attention to, this is what real quality training looks like. And in this case, I will only train 2 people at a time. In this case, it was only me and Tree. And so he got all of this incredible one-on-one attention. And see the crease that we have on the roof now? We're going into creases on the roof. So he got all of this one-on-one attention. But I want you guys to really hear me on this. If you go to a school that has a trainer that is only taught how to train, And I've seen some of these schools out there that have, 10 people in the class with one trainer. And I mean, I was talking to Tree about this, and sometimes I call him, if I accidentally call him Trey, that's just because he told me that's what he calls himself to American people, right? And so, but so we had a little talk about this. Like, we couldn't even imagine, like, him being able to gain the progress that he was able to gain during this 5-day training. He was only with me for 5 days. You guys are seeing day 2, by the way, but he was with me for 5 days with this training. And there's no way that he could have gained the amount of progress, because there's so many times in the beginning when you're trying to find the tip of your tool, when you're trying to make a push, that you need over-the-shoulder guidance. You need somebody there to tell you what you're doing wrong. If you've got to wait for them to talk to like 5-10 people before they get to you, an 8-hour training day is going to be the equivalent of only training like 1 hour a day. The rest of the time, you're going to be confused and spinning your wheels. And this is, listen to me. Hear me when I say this. If you go to a big training mill company, we call them training mills in the PDR world, like a puppy mill, but it's a training mill. If you go to a big training mill company and you're waiting in line for somebody to come and tell you what you're doing wrong, right? And if that somebody isn't even really a dent technician, they've just been taught how to train, so you're not getting the most accurate information, you are starting off with a terribly weak foundation. And listen, I get it. And the crazy thing is people think that they're saving money, but you got to look at purchasing on value. You want to maximize the time that you are training with your trainer. And you want to make sure, like, listen, here's a red flag. If the person training you doesn't have any good before and after videos, isn't able to sit down and push out a complex dent in front of you, then they have just been taught to be a trainer. And if somebody's just been taught to be a trainer, they're literally only going to be able to convey the message of the very basic fundamentals. And to be honest with you, you might as well just go do online video training or something like that, because not only that, also a lot of these training mills have the worst tools as well. And if you don't have the person who's training you that has real world experience, then they're going to guide you even to the wrong tools. Now, I don't know if you guys seen this, but we're moving into a crease right now, big, long crease on this Fender. Now, this is I believe we're on day 3 of Tree's training now. And sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but I'm really trying to convey the message of why this type of training, the type of training that I do, is so important to have this much closer experience with your trainer as he's moving you through the process, building that foundation, building the fundamentals. Just like Tree on his 3rd day is now working on a large crease. I mean, this is, if I took out a tape measure right now, this is easily a 5 to 6 inch crease. Now, any of you PDR technicians watching this, y'all know that you guys were not on the 3rd day working on a 5 to 6 inch crease. And many of you guys know my story. I was trained by a training mill back in 2003. And that's why it took me 2 years to build myself up to the point to where I was confident. And if I was trained, correctly from the beginning, I could have cut that down to 2 months. And so that's what we're doing here for Tree. He's actually coming back for a 2nd week. So he lives here locally. And so he's coming back for a 2nd week here in about a month. So I've got I put together a training program when he goes home to continue working, and then he's going to come back for another week where we are going to move literally into advanced repair, unlocking advanced, large, complex dents. Now, I did all this intentionally because eye fatigue is a real thing. Now, if you don't live locally from the person that's training you, then yes, stay 2 weeks. But at some point, I knew that he was going to burn out. He was going to face a little eye fatigue. So I wanted to send him home to where he can do a little bit of practicing on his own. Of course, with this underlying fundamental knowledge that's going to be able to guide him through the process. And that also he has my cell phone and can call me anytime, right? And so there's that element as well, that I'll be able to work him through that, any situations. But then to top that off, he's going to be coming back. And my goal right now for Tree is to get his work and his pushing just on small dents flawless. So that's my goal from now until the time that he comes back. Now, he was able to get this dent on this fender really good. And so you can see he went on from pushing it up with a soft tip, and now he's moving into a sharper tip. And you guys can see he's actually working in through the backside of the fender. There's a huge opening back there in the backside of that fender. And so Tree is putting that sharper tool right there, dead center in the middle of that crease, and pushing it up. And so this is the point where we're going to be getting into some knockdown work here. And once I get done filming, I'm kind of showing you too. Right there's his hand. And so he started with a soft tip, but we took the soft tip off the tool, and right there's the finished results, by the way. And we went on to the bullet tip that's on the end of the soft tip, because if you take the soft tip off of the end of a tool, you end up with a bullet tip, and it works really good. And this was a 90 bend, the 90 bend Ultra tool. And so immediately after doing the fender from the top, I moved him to under the actual wheel well. And what I did here is we punched in a nice little sharp dent. So I like to go from a nice crease into a sharp, deep dent. So this dent was knocked in there with a sharp knockdown. So that way it has that extremely hard point. And then I'll also hit in soft dents as well, where there's a little bit more surface area to concentrate. And I like to move in between these particular styles of dent, because this is the type of stuff that you're going to see in the real world. It gets much more advanced in the real world. But the key fundamentals are always going to guide you. And this is something that I talk to my students about a lot, is that if you cannot fix a very small dent perfectly clean, then you're not going to be able to fix a big, large dent. Because at some point, the large dent is going to need cleanup work. Now, whether that is with a tool or a glue tab and a hammer and a knockdown, at some point, you have to be able to fix and finish a dent. And once you can finish, at that point, you start learning incredible things like how to unlock big dents, and essentially how to take a big dent and turn it into pockets of smaller dents, how to tackle them smaller dents, finish them, cross-check them, lay on your back, do glue pulls when needed, do pushing when needed. So there's so much tied into the fundamentals. And you can see here, so Tree is fighting a mispush that was up in that upper left-hand corner. And that is something that's very common in your paintless dent removal training, that you're going to make a mispush. And listen to me when I say this, a lot of times it's towards you. So it's going to be on your side of the light towards you. Why is that? Because when you push there, it looks like the dent's disappearing because you're creating a high spot in front of the dent. So there was a lot of work, a lot of detail work going into with Tree, explaining to him exactly what it looks like when you're pinpointing the center of the damage. But this is the thing that a lot of training companies are not going to tell you, that nobody's going to be able to do your push-ups for you, right? And so part of this training experience is teaching Tree how to put in his reps, how to do his push-ups, because a lot of this is not only hand-eye coordination, but it's also visually knowing exactly what it is that you see, and then being able to take the tip of that tool and drop it down to the point where you are splitting orange peel. Well, don't split it, but where you can hit in between the tiny little dots, in between the dots. And see, the thing is, when you first start your training, there is going to be a lot of times when visually things do not feel like they're coming together. You feel like you see exactly what it is that you see, but you notice that you are literally just a couple millimeters or a millimeter away from where you need to be. And that is enough to add a lot of additional work, because you've got to be able to put that tip of the tool exactly on the spot, and you've got to flex that panel to the exact point that moves the metal but does not put a poke mark into the paint. And that, my friends, is why they call paintless dent removal an art. It's not just a mechanical thing. Some of you guys go into this thinking that it's just everything's black and white, like if you get explained it enough times that you're going to understand it, right? And so if somebody explains to you the right angles, the pushing pressure, listen, you're not measuring the pushing pressure. You will feel it in your hands. Any dent technician that's been doing dent removal for a while knows that, like, I can literally tap the metal, and just by hearing the sound and feeling the metal, I immediately know how hard I've got to hit it. And I can put my tool in the back of the metal, and within 3 to 5 pushes, I know exactly how hard I've got to push to make that metal respond. And it comes very quick. That's the type of stuff that takes repetitive, practice. And the thing about it is, a lot of people are going into these big schools that actually look the most professional. That's the craziest thing about this industry. They've kind of mastered the marketing, and they look the most professional, and they're probably going to tell you everything that you want to hear. They're going to make you think that you're going to become an absolute dent removal expert when you leave there. You're going to be making, a couple $100,000 a year, and you're going to be able to travel all around the world, all these things. Yes, all of that's possible. You can make even more than that. But I'm telling you that if you think a 2-week course or a 3-week course where you're sitting on a hood the entire time is going to get you close to that, you are going to be in for a real world awakening. And you'll probably remember me as the last honest person that actually told you the truth. You know why I'm honest about this? It's interesting enough, because I own a $1 million plus hail damage company. And so I do a ton of the work. Training is not so important to me as far as income. So I like to tell people the truth. And there's companies out there that do nothing but training. So they have to keep a steady pipeline. So because of that, they become masters at tickling the ear, telling you everything that you want to hear. I get it all the time. I mean, listen, if anything, when you guys talk to me on the phone, I'm going to talk you out of, I'm going to make you kind of feel like I'm not talking you out of it. I'm just telling you the truth. I'm just telling you the truth. And you got to understand that, right? And so here we go with Tree. Tree was smart enough to realize that. It was incredible dealing with him. In fact, he had a dent on his, he's got a beautiful Dodge RHO. You guys don't know what that is. They used to have the Trackhawk, and then they came out with the off-road version, the RHO. Absolutely beautiful truck. Had a ding in it. So what does he do? Smart guy. He hires me to fix the ding. Before he shows up, he asked me what my training prices are. And so I gave him my training price. And then he goes, well, let's go ahead and get my ding fixed. Then he asked me if he can watch. So I said, sure, you can watch. So I spent about 30 minutes fixing the ding in his door. And, he just watched the whole process and was engaged. And he seen that the dent removal was flawless. And because of that, he's like, this is my guy. This is the one, right? I love the approach that he took, because he wanted to see if I was full of shit. And so it was a good approach, right? So this right here with Tree, this is the first like a golf ball, like a harder hit round golf ball dent. And we're back here in the quarter panel. We're a little further into the quarter panel, which is giving him, it's going to give him trouble because of the length of the rod that we've got to use here. And it's a little bit slippery in there. You're building your hand-eye coordination. Like, to me at this point, when I put in these golf ball dents or the bigger crease, he did really good on that crease in the Fender, but I'm going to be doing a way bigger crease here in a little while. It wasn't so important to me that he got that flawless. What was important to me is that I threw him into the deep end, right? That he got some reps on, in the deep end where he was working on something that is currently out of his league. I mean, we're looking at Tree's experience, I believe, right now on the third day. Maybe it's the fourth day. I don't know. I usually can tell from the clothing that he's wearing. No, this might even be the fourth day, right? And so, here is Tree going into the deep end. This was a dent that's far away. The access is a little bit tough. The tool's slipping, the tool's sliding. There's all these things going on in here. But my thing is that we're putting in the reps, and he's learning how to hit the center of the dent, because what happens after he does this repair on this dent and gets it as far as he can, I'd put him on an easier dent that's a little bit closer to the taillight pocket. And you can kind of see where Tree's pushing. I showed him how to take out the taillight, get everything out of the way. There's a giant hole inside of here. It's where the wiring harness goes. So we pulled the wiring harness out, wrapped the rubber, kind of got rid of the bulbs, hit all that stuff so we don't hit it while he's in there pushing. And he's using the tactical right now to push it out. One little push at a time. We ended up moving to a pick tool. And so we found the pick tool was really working really well. So you can see here, came out very good. Now, all granted, I did sit down in there with him. I made some little pushes here and there. It's not perfect, but it came out pretty decent. There's a little crease going the opposite direction that was already on the car. We're not working on that right now. But now here we go. I put another dent, same size, closer to him. And so I call this the confidence loop. And this is Tree's last day now. So I call this the confidence loop, where we worked on something much harder, and then I pull back a little bit and we do something easier. But here's the thing. This dent a couple days ago would have been extremely hard. But now look at Tree pushing it out. It is giving him so much less issues. Because what do we have here? We got tons of grade access. It is in an area in the panel that he can get to much easier. And so I don't push. What I do is I call it a confidence loop. I push far enough that I can reel you back into being good, really good at something that's, less, right? That's less complex. That's the way that I've always taught my students. I push them into the deep end, and then I reel them back into shallow water. And then I push them back into the deep end, and I reel them back into shallow water. I can promise you right now, there is a person watching this that cannot believe that they went through PDR training and that they only worked on a hood for the entire week that they were there. And they've literally seen this guy not only do glue pulling on his first day, cold glue pulling, using a blending hammer, using a knockdown, working on all the different panels. Why? Listen, y'all, if you guys just train on a hood, when you get out there into the real world, you are going to have a rude awakening, because life and reality is about to hit you on the face, and you're going to quickly realize that I don't know how to push on side panels. Now, you might be able to train on a hood and then move to a roof, but when you get on the side panels, the hand-eye coordination that it takes is a different animal. I mean, especially me and Tree, I didn't get a ton of video on it, but we worked on the doors a lot. And I did a lot of work with him going down in through the window, going in through the wiring harness, everywhere imaginable, because you're training. Look at this crease. So this is his next job, right? So this is me taking Tree and throwing him into the deep end. What did I do? I threw him into the deep end a little bit with that dent that was further away. Now I brought him back into shallow waters for the smaller dent that was closer. And now what am I doing? I'm going right back into an incredibly deep crease. This is every bit of 10, 12 inches long, really deep up there at the top. And I reeled him back. Now I'm throwing him back out in the deep end, because what I figure, if he can gain some progress on this, if he can learn in this deep crease, in which I really feel that in this particular instance, he was really able to see exactly when he was pushing the center. And so as you see him pushing right dead into the center of that, he had more good, perfect center pushes on this than any other dent prior to this. Like I told you, a lot of guys tend to push towards them, right? And because the push looks like the dent is disappearing, but it's not. You're just pushing a high in front of the dent so you can't see the low. And so, but right now he is really getting dialed in exactly how to hit the center of this damage. Now this one, Tree was able to get it to a very, very shallow line. And then I sat down with him and gave him a little bit of a tutorial on how to fix that smallest shallow line. But you can see right now we went from a soft tip tool, and this is all Tree as well up until this point. We went from a soft tip tool down into a bullet tip that's wrapped with Tesla tape. And so now he's getting not quite a bullet tip metal to metal push. What he's actually dialing in here is pushing through a couple layers of tape to where he's going to have a more of a pinpoint precision push without the aggressiveness of just a raw metal tip. And so it's critical to understand all of this. And right here's a little progress point. You see how we're down to that line, the deepest part of that line in the middle? And then here goes Tree right back in there. And I think at this point, we actually went ahead and removed the Tesla tape. And now he's in there with a bullet tip, just pushing that tight little center line. Listen, y'all, I'm confident enough. I can see, and here's the finished results, by the way. There's the finished results, my friends. And so you can kind of see that other crease that's going the other direction still down there in the panel. That was not one that we were working on. And so now up in the fender towards the front. And a powerful thing about this particular training, well, number one, he just hadn't been in this part of the panel yet. This was a very soft, a more shallow dent. Again, pushing Tree into the deep end and then bringing him back out into something new from a different perspective. And what I liked about this, he naturally went into this position. I was wondering when he was going to go do his knockdown work because Tree did a lot of pushing from inside the door jamb back here, right? Again, showing him another scenario that you might get yourself into out in the real world. And so he's doing the knockdown work now, reaching around the front of that mirror. And I never told him to do this. He got into this position naturally. And that's when I knew. I was like, okay, he is absorbing this. He's not only absorbing, the technique, but he's doing things that I would do. So I'm very happy. So here's the dent, the car. So the car had this dent in it already. And so this is one of my rentals, by the way. So we do hail damage repair down here, and we get rentals all the time. Or I'm sorry, we get them to give them out to people. And so the damage was already on there. And I knew that this is something that happened in a parking lot, and I knew the Tree was coming, so I left that damage on there for him to fix it, because not only was it deep, it had a very nice paint scuff down there at the bottom. And again, now what are we doing? I'm throwing him back into the deep end. This is a tough dent. Not only is it a deep, gnarly little knot, it's right above the door handle. Now we do have good access, but there's also that line that's right there on the edge of the panel. You can kind of see it towards the back side of the fog. Right there, you can see it really well. There's that hard line, that pinch on the edge of the panel that is going to give him a great training experience doing the knockdown work on it. We also got a dent a little bit further up on the panel, and you can see up there in the middle. That's going to be us reeling it back in. Now, this is his last day, and now we still did a bunch of glue pulling at the end of the day, but this is ultimately Tree's last dent that I recorded, and this is me and him walking through this thing together. He did the majority of the push work on this. I probably spent about maybe 2 to 3 minutes on it at the very end, cleaning it up. But again, this right here is pushing Tree into the deep end, and he did really well learning how to flex a dent without even being able to see the bottom. I don't know if you noticed that, but that little dent was so deep you couldn't even really see the bottom of the damage. So right here is where Tree is knocking down that edge, giving him a nice little bit of experience on knocking down, doing a little bit of edge work. Now, the reason why I put this training out here was not to just upset everybody who went to one of these training mills or trained with somebody who did not teach them the way that tree is being taught here, but also to let many of you know that this is our standard. This is my standard. When people work with me, they work on a live vehicle. They've also got an individual that's going to support them. Now, am I more expensive? Of course I'm more expensive. You can't, if you want to waste your time sitting on a hood for 2 weeks, then please be cheap, right? But if you want to pay the appropriate amount to the right person that is going to be able to guide you through this the right way the first time, and you don't want to sit there wasting all of this time while you are waiting for your instructor to come and tell you what it is you're doing, even if they know what that is. Because like I said, most instructors are just taught to be instructors. They do not have real world dent removal experience. So if you're not fixing dents every day, different makes, different models, how do you even know which tools work right? How do you even fully understand, the right appropriate method to not only move the metal, but to be able to move it appropriately, get it done in a reasonable amount of time? And also, what is the standard out there that people are willing to accept or not accept? And so anyhow, y'all, I'm not on here trying to upset, but you know what? The truth is the truth. And many of y'all listening to this, if you've been in paintless dent removal, write a comment, because you guys know that you've probably dealt with the exact same thing. And there's a ton of us that had subpar training coming into this, and we had to go out, we had to learn on our own. But is that really what we wanted to pay for? Or when we signed up to that subpar training, is that what we actually signed up for? And so now you know. The truth will set you free. And I'm a fan of telling the truth. And I'm not up here picking on somebody individually. But what I am doing is I'm challenging the industry to get better, or at least tell the truth. The reason why you're X amount of dollars is because the training is going to be diluted by 10X. And y'all are going to feel this. If you guys are signed up to go in training somewhere and you got a good deal, guess what? Being cheap has a cost. It has a cost. And nobody really wants what's cheap. What we want is value, because we want our money to give us a value return. And so I just encourage a lot of you who are price shopping PDR training, man, y'all are making a huge mistake. And one of the reasons why this industry has such a high failure rate, they're not going to tell you that, by the way, but this industry has a massive failure rate. More people have failed than people that are actually in it. I can tell you that. But ultimately, it comes down to proper training. But also, let's just say, well, why would they want to give you the proper training if you're not willing to pay the cost for that? And it's just like anything else. The price keeps getting diluted, but the volume gets more. And you think just because you're sitting in a classroom and you're going to have a trainer come over and point at your hood and tell you missed a little spot here, you need to tap here, that, my friends, is not good quality training. And so this is why Tree is going to be absolutely ahead of the game. And as long as he sticks to it, and I believe that he will, as long as he doesn't decide it's something he doesn't want to do, and I don't believe that he's going to do that either, because I've already been texting with him this morning, and it's Sunday, and he's already at it. We've just had some hail recently drop in DFW, and so he's already at it. He's already getting motivated. He's already working on the plan, right, with me. And so anyhow, y'all, that is it. I'm going to drop you off on this tutorial, and if I sounded a little bit brash, I really intended to sound that way. And I'm not going to apologize for it. I don't really care what the comments are on this. I'm not going to apologize for it. I know the truth. And many, many people who watch this video are going to know exactly what I'm saying here today is the absolute truth. So I hope you guys enjoy your day. And I really hope that I save somebody from making a mistake. And I'm not just saying you only can go with me either. And I'm not even trying to convince you to. Fill out an application. We can talk. If you seem like the type of person who I qualify all the people that I train. So everybody who fills out an application is eventually going to talk to me. And I make sure that you have the right attitude, the right drive, and you fully understand what it is that you're about to get yourself into. So that way I can be the last person that actually told you the truth. Hopefully the guy that trains you, but you're going to have, an attitude that I feel is going to represent myself as a student who I trained. And again, this may come off, I don't want you guys to think that it's coming off as like arrogance or anything like that. What is truly coming off as I take this industry seriously, I only want to work with people that have the right attitude, the right drive. And if that is you, then fill out the application. And if not, then you don't have to. I wish everybody the best. Each and every one of you, even the ones who are convinced that to go to one of these training mill schools, I wish you all the best. Sometimes it might be your only option because maybe you got a GI Bill, something like that you're using. But that, my friends, may be, for some of you, a very expensive mistake. All right, y'all. I'll see you on the next one.